TGIF. Hope you all have had a wonderful week. I know you are ready for the weekend to begin. So, welcome to the Just Ask Char advice channel. We will be getting started very soon. So get comfortable, get ready, and relax. We sincerely thank you all for your support. This channel is sponsored by you, the subscribers. When you want to hear another perspective for yourself or a friend, then just send an email for advice to JustAskChar@gmail.com. Alright, we are ready to get this show started. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. There will always be a perspective or some advice that someone can benefit from and use. Now, here's your host of the show, Char Willis.
All right. TGIF, everyone. How are you? Have you been waiting for this day to come? Which day I'm talking about? Friday. I know some of you all are thinking, the first of the month, cash your check and come on. But a lot of those people that get checks on the first actually got it today. So you will see a lot of traffic. You'll see a lot of people out in the stores running about because it is that time. It has been a long week, very busy week for me as well. And Sister Girl is a little tired. Yes, she is. But she's been working. She's been working hard. Mine just been going. And I think that's what happened to us sometimes. We do a lot of thinking and planning in our head, and it gets so busy. You just don't get a chance to kind of, relax. But the weekend is here, so hey, let's begin it. Yes, let it begin. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I always appreciate that because it is yours. You can spend it anywhere else. I understand that. So I do appreciate it. I haven't really had time to look at different stuff in the news and all of that. Um, only thing I know of is one thing, and that was because of an email I received. And I don't know if you guys heard about the real IDs. They were supposed to have been coming like what, 2009? No, not that long ago. 2019, I think it was. And it's been pushed, 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 pushed. So now the date has been pushed to May 3rd, 2023. And I have a good feeling that is because they're going to incorporate the shot. You know that shot I'm talking about. I think that's what's going on. So they want to make sure that they put that in the plan. Everybody got to get one. I am not happy about that at all. I believe in having a choice. And once they take that away from you, what's left? You don't have anything left. And I have, my feelings about that. They have opened up a little bit in Illinois starting tomorrow, May 1st. And so again, the weather is here, it's getting warmer. There's going to be more people out. I understand completely, but there's still a lot of questions I have about that shot, and I'm not too happy about it. And I'll leave it right there. Yes. But we got a good show for you tonight, and what I mean by good show is people participating. That's what I call a good show because you put your heads together, your ideas, your opinions, your thoughts, all that good stuff, and say, hey, I see a problem. Let's see how we can fix it. Agreed? Agreed. I appreciate it. So without further ado, you guys know what to do. I have brought to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage.
Classic Ruby, everybody. Classic Ruby.
Classic Ruby in the house. It's going to the lovely TGIF. How you doing this evening, Char? I'm feeling fine up on your stream. I feel like you look sexy. I'm just admiring us. We look great. We look great, Char. We do. It's going to be a good Friday. I can feel it.
Good deal. Yeah, I'm a little sluggish, but like I said, my mind been going, got a lot of things to do, think about, organize, and it just finally caught up with me today. Today is just say, hey, it's Friday.
Mm,
Slump.
mm, okay. I feel you. It's the end of the month too. I feel like that happens when a season's changing or at the end of the month. Like you just kind of hit a wall for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's something. Like I just found out the hard way, and by the hard way I mean like I'm walking around like RoboCop because I thought with all this leg day exercising I was doing that included my inner thighs, but then I did a
Okay.
specific inner thigh workout 2 days ago. I
Hmm.
can barely walk. You should see me. I'm like sitting here, like barely moving my legs, just like turning my body so that way I kind of wobble my way places. I'm like, I've been doing so good. Just, just nope.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna become more active myself. Like I said, the weather is, is getting better. You'll have some rain, but other than that, it's pretty mild outside. It's pretty good for Chicago. Got to give it to them. Mother
Nice.
Nature and her cousin and all that. They're doing pretty well out here.
Yeah, for y'all. You just sending us all your cold weather. So my building decided to turn off our heat yesterday so that way they could turn on the AC as of Monday, right? Today's like the
Oh,
coldest day in the last like 2 months. It's so cold. We have the space heaters on and everything. It's freezing. I'm like, really? Like, I haven't needed the heat. Now I need the heat, and y'all just turned it off. Thanks for that. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah. Need that heater.
Mm-hmm. Thank God.
All right, so let us begin. I will share the screen and we can listen to the letter, put our heads together, and see what we come up with. I just have one thing on my mind. I think that's another reason why I'm exhausted, and I'll discuss that. Let's see here. Isolation. Here we go. And let's get it. Today I have a letter from a young lady that is looking for some type of advice, instruction, or direction. And she writes, me and my husband are divorcing because the relationship has become extremely toxic. He is a little bit older than me. He is 35 years old, and I am 28 years old. After the death of my brother-in-law, his brother, my husband became extremely abusive, mentally, sexually, and physically. He would verbally belittle me at the point of tears, or he would start fights with me when we were about to go out on an outing to go see our friends. Often when this happened, I chose not to go, but he still would go out and meet up with our friends, keeping up the commitment. And he would use this as ammunition against me. He would tell our friends that I was in some other type of mood, and that made it seem like I no longer enjoyed spending time with them. Because of this behavior and abuse is when we began our separation. I found it hard to talk to any of the friends. Once the verbal abuse moved into physical abuse, I decided to open up to one of my best friends. We went to high school together, so I've known her for over 10 years. When I opened up to her about the abuse, she immediately went to my husband and told him that I was going around telling everyone that he was an abuser. My husband became increasingly angry, and he threatened to sue me for slander. He said there is no proof that he has ever abused me. I have never called the police because, after all, his father used to be chief of police. His uncle and two of his cousins are still on the force, so no sense going there. After this, I found it really hard to open up to anyone, to tell anyone anything was really going on. All my friends seemed to gravitate more toward him, and eventually I lost all of those relationships. Unfortunately, my soon-to-be ex-husband and I work for the same company. We are in different departments, so we're not together the full 8 hours, but we still see each other multiple times a day. And all the people in my department know of him, and they're very friendly with him because he's friendly with them. I've tried to find another job, but due to the pandemic, finding work has been extremely hard. However, I am still actively looking. Even though people at work are trying hard to keep it professional, my husband is very charming, very charismatic, and extremely friendly person. He's extremely talented, so he's very successful at work. It's hard not to like him. He is included in all the virtual rooms and social distance wine tastings and things like that, and I am not. I know that I do not talk to the coworkers or spend time with them chatting in the break room. And I'm not really upset about that I'm not invited at least. But I wish I could make people understand that it's not because I don't enjoy spending time with them or that I think I'm better than them. And I can just imagine my husband is actually saying that to them. But because my husband is always there, I can't just sit there casually and eat my lunch with him just sitting there and chat and joke around like nothing's going on. But I know they don't understand this because all they see is how charming he is, his happy side. That is the side that he continues to show. And I'm afraid at this point to tell anyone what he's really like behind closed doors or what our relationship is really like because I don't know who I can open up and trust. It's just so hard feeling like an outcast, and I don't want to be. But even though I can handle being in the same room with him at work, and I have no choice actually because I need to keep my job and keep paying my rent. But being around him when I don't need to is very unbearable. I don't know what advice I'm looking for. I don't have family around anymore, and I lost all my friends due to this separation. What are your thoughts? This is a very Whew, girl,
That's
my
heavy.
head. Yes, oh boy. Oh,
I mean, I'm glad at the end of the day, I'm sure she doesn't see it this way, but I'm glad she lost all of her relationships and connections, especially to the best friend, because with friends like that, you don't need enemies. Um,
thank you.
right? If at any point that girl wants to reconnect, block, delete everything. No, that's not your friend. Okay, that's not your friend. No. So, and actually, I find a lot in breakups to begin with is that people tend to win, friends in the custody battle. It's just what it is. Um, it sounds like to me now, again, you didn't talk about this, but you did talk a little bit about his personality. And it seems to me like he's the charismatic, gregarious, outgoing one, and you were the quiet, friendly one. Maybe a little more quiet, a little more shy and whatever. So you were pleasant and whatever, nice to be around, but he is kind of like he was your social lubricator, for lack of better words. And so, as a result, because he already kind of had that role in your life, then he technically made a deeper impression on all those friends, those co-friends y'all had anyway. And yeah, they're gonna fall to his side. And so, as much as you don't see it as a positive thing right now, it actually is a better thing that you lost those friends. Stop immediately stop thinking about what they think or whose side they're on or that they don't really know him. Leave it alone. Okay. Right now, everything that he wins in the divorce, trust me, it's better. It's like good riddance to bad rubbish. Some of them might have been great people. Who cares? It doesn't matter because for you to not be in that scenario or situation anymore, golden. Now, the work thing, I get that. And I mean, with the pandemic going on right now, I understand the limitations that there's going to be there and whatever. Um, this is what I would do if I were you. And yes, everyone's going to say, try to find another job, try to transfer somewhere else. Not always possible. But what you could do is maybe suggest a ladies' lunch or a ladies' night out, right? Then you don't actually have to specifically address your ex or soon to be ex-husband and why you don't want him to be there or whatever. Nor do you have to try to force them to choose sides. It's simply like a ladies bonding thing. And women do this. Women have ladies luncheon, ladies mani and petty day, a ladies da 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 da, right? And so you can do that and make that type of suggestion, right? Just like they're doing the wine tasting and the this and the that, and it's for everyone. You could do something where it's like ladies' night, a ladies' discussion about ladies' stuff, even. You know what I mean? Even if you're not allowed to specifically, you know, not invite the guys, well, you're going to be talking about menstruation and menopause. The other two men in your lives, right? Menstruation and menopause. Now, men can join too, but are they going to want to? No, right? And
Nah.
so, right? And then in that way, you're allowing yourself to connect with your coworkers and getting some of that group time, even though you can't necessarily do it at other times. As for what everyone else thinks about him, please, please do not go around telling coworkers, friends, family, anybody that he abuses you or he's terrible or he's whatever, because then you are forcing them to make a judgment and choose, are you crazy or is he abusive? And if they've never seen any signs or any indications or any discussion from you or him that he's abusive, and he's the one they're more closely connected to. He's the one who's out for everything. He's the one who's blah, 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 blah. He's the one who hasn't been slowly being isolated for years. They're going to choose a side. You don't want to put anyone in that position, and you don't want to make yourself look crazy because you're not. So do not address him. Don't address who he is, what he's about, make faces, nothing. He's just vapor to you. He does not exist. You're not talking about him or to him. If anyone brings it up, you just say something along the lines of, well, that's kind of complicated when you're getting divorced, and leave it at that. Because people will understand that. Even if he's not terrible, just breakups hurt. You don't want to necessarily be around your ex. People understand that. And they can understand and leave it at that. You know what I mean? So you don't have to convince other people in order for them to spend time with you or whatever. You're not going to go get validation from society if you need that, which I understand why you would do. And honestly, I think you should do this anyway. But, you should get into some type of counseling and a support group, right? Because there are always support groups. I know that they're holding them online now since, you can't meet in little basements and stuff, for victims of domestic violence or, survivors of sexual assault, stuff like that. And so you can then get into groups with people who will validate you and hear you and understand you, and also be able to relate to you on the various issues you've gone through. So you'll have that as well. You'll be able to heal there. You have your personal counseling. That's going to help you heal overall for yourself as an individual and rebuild. And then everything else I said about, being able to make social connections, at least for now, until maybe you can transfer out of there to a new place, whatever. That's my 2 cents, in a nutshell.
Well, Ruby, that was like 14 cents, but anyway, I appreciate it. Because I agree with it. I completely agree with it. Hey Char, hey Ruby.
Greetings.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You know what? When it comes to abuse, physical, verbal, sexual, we need to take that very serious. And my advice is very similar to what Ruby said. She needs to get out. I'm sorry. She needs to go. If she needs to sneak out in the middle of the night, like Neek said in the chat, with the clothes on her back, that's what she needs to do. All of those material goods are not worth your life. This man means business. And I also agree that she needs to just be quiet, because the more she brings attention to his direction, the more chances that there will be something that may accidentally happen to her. And because she's been acting so quote unquote standoffish with the friends, they'll be like, yeah, she has been acting weird. If something happens to her and she's in a situation to where it looks like, oh, it was suicide, it could be believed because of the way things have gone down. This chick needs to it's not her job to convince everybody that this is an abuser. Her first and foremost duty is to herself. She needs to make sure that she is safe and she can crusade, somewhere else. But while she's right there and she's under basically the scrutiny of him and all of the friends that they once had together,
Yeah.
it's a wrap. And she has no family. It's time to go. She needs to leave. She needs to make new friends. I know it's all easier said than done, but
Mhm.
when it comes down to life and death, you're gonna find a way. Don't if you're with everything that she's saying, if she believes what she just told us in that letter, I believe it. And that man means business. So if she brings negative attention towards him, he's not having that. He's not going to have that. And chances are, if something happens to her, he may be protected because of his bloodline and his connection to the police department. And she needs to think about that. She can easily be written off as, oh, she was erratic. She was standoffish. She was very withdrawn. She didn't want to hang out with our friends. She went around telling stories about him abusing her. We never saw it. He's a great guy. Jerome. Have you ever seen Jerome go off? No, Jerome's always been even killed, So
Yep.
it's not her job to convince everybody that he's a monster. I've always said nobody knows what goes on between a man and a woman. I don't give a damn your mother, your grandmother, your auntie, your sisters. When a man and a woman are together in their relationship behind closed doors, you don't know what goes on with those people. I don't care how close they are to you. Your best friend, you don't know. It's between that man and that woman. And
Yep.
she knows. She knows. So it's not her job to try to convince everybody. She already knows what's happened. She's lived it. She's been on the receiving end of his abuse. It's time to go. Clear out your bank account. You need to up and move somewhere else. Of course, he probably will be able to find her social security number. He has people in law enforcement. He may be able to find her. But if he sees that she's not a threat, he's going to forget about her. And then eventually, it's not going to be too long, if it hasn't already happened, that he'll be fixated on another woman. Once the woman is disenchanted, he doesn't like that the woman is disenchanted, and either he will, get rid of her, or she will just silently just disappear into the horizon. I don't know if you guys remember Drew Peterson, the police officer who had 2 wives. One wife was found dead, drowned in her tub. The other wife was missing. And who do you think was a likely suspect? This police officer who had the protection of the police department. We're not going to just pretend like the police don't protect their own. It is what it is, because people didn't just pull this out the air and say, oh, you think the police protects each other? No, we've seen it. We all have examples of it. But Drew Peterson, his wife died years ago. Now he's in jail for her murder, but she'd been dead for years, and he had already had another wife who disappeared. They don't even know where she is.
Yeah. That's one thing that really disturbed me about the letter, and just made my heart heavy, because I hear the same thing. She wants to convince other people that she's not like that. She's not trying to withdraw. And I thought about us, okay, she's a young lady, she's 28. Okay. She got a lot of friends. They were singing together. It's a nice couple. Everybody loved how charming he is. Oh yeah. Oh, here they come. Oh, hugging, kissing, all the little niceties and the gifts and all this kind of stuff. They were the perfect greeting card. And to have your image like, oh, she doesn't want to be around. I don't know. Oh, well, we'll still have a good party anyway. Come on, y'all.
Exactly.
And he's responsible for that. And so now, of course, she's withdrawn. You went to a friend, you try to speak to someone that you knew since high school. And she went and told the man, oh, she said this and that and another. And she added some more, if how she written it, if that's how it was. She gave some extra. She didn't even just say, your wife told me that you did this. Oh, she's going around spreading rumors that you're doing this, that, and other to everyone. So she just put some more, what is it, some cream on top of it. And I'm like, okay, we know that we don't want her in our life. So just count her out.
Exactly.
Just she's not, don't worry about her. She's gone. She's no good to anyone. But if that was a good friend of yours, and I would think, why wouldn't she be closer? You went to school with her. And everyone else you probably met as a couple, she is, really withdrawn. I mean, like, where's she gonna go? So as far as if it's possible to leave town, um, she got to have some family somewhere. I don't know where, but contact them and let them know what's going on, so you just don't disappear. Because this man, his father was the chief of police.
Mm-hmm.
And then got some active cousin and not nephew,
Uncle?
an uncle. Yes, you have some active officers. And the fact that she said, I can't tell the police, that's what really made my heart heavy. I'm like,
Right.
wow.
Where
She
did
can't,
you turn? The police
young.
first
Mhm.
place you turn, and you can't turn to the police because of his affiliation or his connection with the police force.
Well, you know what the sad thing is? It's heavily, I think, overstated, this idea that you can just call the police and say he abused me with no evidence, and they're just gonna lock up everyone. It's very heavily overstated because
Mhm.
oftentimes women don't go to hospitals or make other police reports or whatever while they're experiencing verbal, physical, and sexual abuse from their partner. And when they've gotten to that place where they're terrified and they call the police, oh, there's no evidence. There's no evidence anything happened. There's no evidence that you're under threat. There's no evidence that this isn't more than a one time isolated incident, and that's the most that you're going to get. So the unfortunate part is, this is so regular and so much of a problem that they do actually have underground support networks
Mm-hmm.
for women. And normally you kind of hear about them through the group meetings. Now, I don't know if these are still things that you would be able to do given, it's online now and whatnot, because I know there's a lot of secrecy, a lot of tapping of shoulders and whatnot. Like, you can't just say, hey, I want to know, I want to be part of this. They have to, they have to say you're in imminent danger, and so we're going to help you. And basically, they will scoop you up out of your life and relocate you. Like, one day you will just disappear. That's it. There's no one, friends, family, nothing. No one will ever hear from you again. You'll just be gone. And it's to save you from an abuser. So, I mean, they have those networks for this reason. I don't know. Now, the way it sounded, I couldn't tell from the letter. Like,
Mhm.
it seemed to me like they were together sometimes still. And then sometimes it seemed to me like they've already broken up and they're in separate places. Um,
It sounds like they're transitioning. I know what you're saying. It sounds like they're
Yeah.
transitioning to the actual break, but for some reason, I still get the feeling that she's close to him, which is
mm,
why she's even writing the letter. And my thing is I just think she needs to just, okay, babe, yeah, I used to love you, and just break it off. She don't need to be kicking up no dust and being a twister on the way out the door, because he's gonna take that twister down. She needs to just leave quietly because she's outnumbered and outgunned. And sometimes you have to know when to fold.
mhm. I mean, a big problem with this guy in specific, though, is that they were together for a while with her having glowing testimonies about what an amazing guy he is, right? And assuring everyone what a great and amazing guy he was, because until he suffered this loss of his brother, he wasn't abusive. And so, you don't check in with people like that, right? Like, if I meet you today, right? You tell me your husband's great, he's never hit you, blah 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 blah. I don't check in 10 years and ask you, so has he hit you yet? Like, right? Like, I just assume that if y'all been together for a while, he's never abused you, he's not an abuser. Y'all don't have that kind of relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that is, again, that's the problem that she currently has, at least with the group of people who know them together as a couple and know him. And a lot of times, I don't know, I was like this, I'm like this a lot, whereas in when I get a new man, right, I would kind of more so, I guess, gravitate towards his friend group as our couple friend group. Like it wasn't as many of my female or my friend group that came in. It was more like their friend group became my friend group too. And so, you have to look at that as well, is that where should the loyalty have laid with your high school friend? With you?
It
Why
should,
didn't it lay there?
it most definitely should have lied with her. And for her
Yeah.
friend, I mean, this is a chick she went to school with, and she's siding with this dude. Now, I have a friend that's been my friend since 5th grade, elementary school, and we got a 40 plus, friendship. And it's like, if I'm gonna tell her something like that, she know I'm not pulling it out my ass. And if I am pulling it out my ass, she already knows the type of person I am because she knows me so well. So if I tell her I'm being abused, she's going to believe I'm being abused. But somehow or another, this particular friend is charmed by her husband, which tells me that, the fact that no one can, even fathom that he could have an abusive bone in his body tells me, that there's chances are he could be a narcissist. I mean, narcissists are very charming people. They don't show that bad side. You have to be up close and personal to see that bad side of them. And she is up close and personal, which is why I stated before, nobody knows what goes on between a man and a woman. And so when a woman or a man tells you, hey, this is what it is, how the hell do you know? Because you don't know what it's like to be up and close and personal with that person like they do.
That's true.
This reminds me of the storyline. I mean, I'm talking about the best friend specifically. The storyline from Being Human. It doesn't matter what version you watch, the English one or the American one, don't matter, because the storyline's about the same as far as how the chick becomes a ghost. And at first she can't remember, but ultimately it comes down to that her boyfriend was abusive, or her fiance was abusive. No one really knew he was abusive. One day he pushed her down the stairs. That's how she dies. And then, depending on which one you watched, either the friend's been plotting the whole time, or the friend just, through consoling each other, they become together. The ex-fiance and now, the friend, right? And so it's like once she realizes, the ghost remembers, she wants to warn the friend, like, hey, it's gonna kill you too. And so, but it reminds me of that. It reminds me of somebody, right? And I'm sorry, but we know there's a whole bunch of people who, I've seen it on Maury and Steve Wilkos and a bunch of these shows very recently too, right? Where a woman will sleep with your man and then tell you, no, but I love you, right? I love you. Well, what do you mean? We've been friends since we were 4. I love you, right? But, all's fair in love and war. And it seems to me like that's what happened. You gave her a token to get the man of her dreams. And who's the man of her dreams? Your man, right? Because she sees how popular he is, how much prestige he has, how much money he makes. He's a high value man, and he's good looking too, and he's tall, and he's this and he's that. Oh, girl, ooh, you're so. And she's been jealous of you. She's been jealous of you in your relationship from day one, and now you just handed her, keys to the city. That's it. Now that's because think about it. If she wasn't trying to get your man, she could just tell you to your face, I don't believe you, and walk away. Why did she run to him and not only tell him that you told her, but try to make it a bigger, expansive lie, right? Why? Because, she's trying to show that she'd be loyal and dedicated to him and and protect him. And, she's already trying to show her wife skills. I'm sure she did it with a little skimpy dress on. You know what I mean? Probably rub it up on him.
Probably did it with a little bit of vagina on his penis. I mean, hey, she probably just gave him the whole full 9.
For sure, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like she's a little tart, as they would say in the old days. Skank, if you want to, go 10 years ago. Yeah, no, seriously, she's a thought. She has nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, you wasted way too much time and energy on her, which is why you need to drop her. And but honestly, even if she wasn't a terrible person, and this is part of the problem, even if you're not a terrible person, I can only judge people by what I see and what I experience. And most people think that they're incredibly perceptive about human behavior and humans. And most people are totally mistaken about that. Most people are very bad at it. Let's be real. Most people are very, very bad at judging other people's character and whatever, right? Because they're going by a bunch of really superficial bullshit that doesn't mean anything. So, most people are not going to be able to sit there and say, oh my God, I had no idea all this time. You're a social coworker of mine, so is he. But oh my God, he must be beating you. It must be for real. Okay, oh my God, okay, let's fry him. Let's crucify him. Like I said, I think it's being heavily overstated. And again, how easily this just flies these days. Well, if a woman just says it, then everyone's just going to believe her. And, everyone's coming out with the pitchforks. And, that's it, getting fired. Oh, your life's over. It's so easy. It's not so easy. And especially if, again, he's the liked one. He's the popular one. He's the charismatic one. She's the shy, quiet type.
He kept up the relationship with the friends, so of course he's like, oh, sure, I'm going to go to the get together. And she's like, I can see you janky, so I'm not going. And she don't go, oh, she's in one of her moods. It's like, oh, what's wrong with her? She don't want to come to our house. You know how folks get, they turn it into something else. So now she looks like, a snobbish, stuck up, skank. Oh, she don't want to come to our house, or she's always giving him an attitude every time it's time to do something. And he's like, oh no, everything is great, hunky dory, whoa, and so it makes her look really bad. So she has absolutely no support, no family. She doesn't even have the freaking support of the friend that she knew before she even married this man, which tells me you got to go, chick. I don't give a damn the cost, because whatever the cost is it worth more than your life? Because you're saying this man is sexually abusing you. She didn't go into detail with regards to how that is. And when I think of sexual abuse, I mean, there's a myriad of things that go through my mind. So I don't know what that is, but I know it don't feel good. It sounds painful to me. Sexual abuse sounds painful to me. So, so it's like, no, he's doing that to you in verbal. Even if a person doesn't put their hands on you, doesn't lay a finger on you, verbal abuse can be extremely devastating. And get out of that situation. So now you guys figured out you don't like each other. So now you're going through a divorce. Okay, sis, let it separate, get on. Whatever friends you lost, good the F riddance.
Yeah, she's young. She start all over again. I don't care if because she's 28. I really don't care if she was 68. Bye.
Yeah. Sorry. Hey,
You'll meet somebody.
Right?
You will. Sometimes, here's the thing. People need to recognize something about abuse victims. Because a lot of times you'll hear people say, man, why does she just leave? She needs to go. But, they don't understand why it's so hard to leave, right? Because realistically, if you think, well, someone's verbally and sexually and physically assaulting you on a daily basis, your life is miserable and isolated, and you're terrified that you're going to die every day, why wouldn't you just go? But you have to remember that it's almost impossible to walk into a relationship on day one and start verbally, sexually, and physically abusing someone, and they're just going to stick around for 10 years. Like, that doesn't happen. Right. And this is like what they say is the grooming process, where they groom you. They're very slowly chiseling away at your self-esteem and self-confidence. And at first, they are doing it in such a way that you are truly believing that you're at fault, that it's something that you're at fault for. Right. It's like, it's very, very mild gaslighting.
And I completely agree with you, Ruby. And my thing is, I have experience, with, abuse. And to be honest, the bottom line is that the person does need to leave. And it's hard for people to understand why they don't. I completely understand why they don't just up and leave. But at the end of the day, regardless of why they don't leave, the true and only solution is for you to leave. So when I tell people, or when I say that, and I say, you need to leave, it's more of like an indoctrination. It's more of like, the more you say it, the more it's embedded in the person's brain, because truly that is the only solution. For the most part, if you're dealing with a diabolical person, and most times you don't know how diabolical that person is until you come up missing. You're like, damn, until you come up missing, or you're floating in your bathtub and it's a mysterious death. Who got time for that? When you're dealing with somebody who's abusive, there is no give, there is no leeway. And I granted, I understand people do not leave when they are abused, because they tend to doubt that this is abusive to themselves. She's writing a letter because she knows something is wrong. She knows something is wrong. That's why she is writing this letter. So the fact that she's writing this letter, it is in her to know, it is in her soul to know this is not correct. And so the ultimate decision is for her to leave. And when you think about all it's going to cost, the trouble you're going to have to go through, it's easier said than done. Is any of that worth your life? And when you think of it in terms as such, you're like, you know what? It really isn't. So my words will always be leave. But you know what? There are 1,000 different ways to leave.
Well, but remember too, right? Because part of the thing, right, with this grooming is this psychological manipulation to the point where, like, not only have they, totally isolated you, right? They've either convinced you to isolate yourself or they've isolated you for you. Right. But then they've gotten you to say things that push people away as well. Right. But not only that, but, there's the indoctrination called learned helplessness syndrome. So not only do you think you're worthless, you think no one will want you, you think everything is your fault anyway, right? But then you honestly feel helpless to leave. I'm going to give y'all an example of learned helplessness syndrome for those of y'all who've never heard of it or think it's ridiculous. So they'll do this experiment. They put a dog in a cage, okay? Cage. They can't get out of the cage. And then they make the floor, they'll send electricity through the floor and make it really hot, right? So they send electricity through the floor. And the dog goes wild. It's trying to get the hell out of this cage, but it can't, right? These shocks hurt. They're scary and they hurt. And the dog is panicking and is trying to get away every time. And it can't get out and it's trying to stay away. But over time, eventually, the dog's reaction becomes less and less, till eventually it'll just keep lying on the floor, even while you're keeping a consistent shock or whatever. No longer responds to the electric shocks. Now, here's the interesting part. So then you open the door. Dog doesn't try to get out of the cage. Then you shock it. It's facing the open door, and you are shocking it with you can turn up the power. You can turn up that dial higher and higher and shock it, and the dog will not try to leave the cage. That's learned helplessness syndrome, okay? And it's a real phenomenon that really happens. So to an extent, you have to understand all the different psychological barriers, right? And then, of course, and here's the scary part, right? Most abuse victims don't leave one time. They leave multiple times and go back multiple times, over and over and over.
Yeah.
Back and forth, right? And that's part of it is that deep conditioning. No one else is ever going to love you like I do. No one else is going to do this, that, whatever. No one else is, and so you get all of that in your head. And it's incredibly, it takes over everything, right? And you don't even realize that's what you're battling. I'm sure to an extent, she doesn't realize all that she's really battling psychologically right now while she's looking at all this. She's saying, basically, I need a support system and I need a life because I can't stay strong enough to stay away from this man without something to constantly be distracting me, something to make me feel like my life is worth living, right? Like, she's not comfortable with herself. She's not comfortable sitting in silence and reading a good book right now. She's not there because of years of systematic breaking down of her psyche. And so this is why I said, honestly, the very best thing you can do is go to a support group for socialization and get therapy. Because what you actually need from people, I think right now, you think you want general, socializing. I don't think you do. I think you need validation. I think you need someone to hear your story and hear parts of your story and tell you, yeah, that was wrong. Yeah, that's awful. Oh my God, he's a monster. You need someone to validate that for you. And you want it to be people who know him. And the fact of the matter is, it's unlikely to happen. But it doesn't matter, because even if people try to, they don't understand what you went through. You need people who understand what you've gone through, what you're experiencing even right now, because they can walk you through not just the psychological and emotional stuff, right? They can just walk you through next steps as far as what do you do now? Where do you go now? the courts of this and that. Okay, well, what do you do with that? Right? Because they've all been there. They've seen many, many women, not just, the ones in the group right now who've come and gone, right? So I think that would be your best bet. You need to start looking for support groups in your area or that are available online for sexual assault and for domestic violence. So that way you can start having these conversations with people and you can really feel heard and understood.
I like that. And we got a donation. This will be a new chime. I hope you like it for when people donate. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's hilarious. I remember when he did that.
That was awesome.
That was crazy. Yeah. All right, Sheed. Sheed is here.
Love it. Love it. Vonda, everything I was saying was not to take away from the ultimate, you've got to leave. The less times you go back, the better. I mean, we have to understand that, I think it's like 75% of abuse victims that are in the process of leaving die while leaving, because of every single time that you leave and come back, you're actually at greater risk of not making it out the next time.
Absolutely. Because he told you the last time you left, if you leave me again, I'll kill you. I will kill you. And my thing is that, with these women, you also have to remember that there is a, and I'm not trying to, take it R-rated, but there is a sexual component. There is, that frustration of the breakup and the makeup situation of it.
Mm-hmm.
These men, for some reason, they're turned on by, the fear that they invoke in you, by the violence they're able to, invoke upon you, and the vulnerableness of the woman that they're, doing this to. And so when, they have these heated moments where it's like, this anger, and, he might slap her or beat her, and cuss her out and whatever. And then all of a sudden, there's this, mad, passionate, sex session. And it's confusing, because, this is a woman who loves this man. She truly,
right.
I mean, in her heart, she gets butterflies. She loves this man. So she doesn't understand, why he's, being so abusive to her, but yet, he can, like make love to her like that with so much passion. And it's like, it's confusing, which is why, my first and foremost is like, run, leave, get out of there, jump out the window, because sometimes it's like you're in the middle of all those emotions. It's hard to sort that mess out. You got to leave. And sometimes when you're able to, run ahead of the group and then turn around and look back, you have time to think and be like, okay, whew, wow, that was some crazy mess, and you can kind of regroup. But the more you're in it, the longer you're going to stay, is what I'm saying. Sometimes the cut straight to it is the best, but it's actually the least likely to happen. It's the hardest one, to actually do. But to me, it actually yields the best results. Bottom line, getting the F out of there and just not even looking back. You're moving forward and you're not looking back. You're not Lot's wife and his daughters. You're not looking back. You don't want to turn into a pillar of salt. You done ran and you're gone. It's very unlikely that women will do that. They usually, meander and, like you say, Ruby, and end up dead.
That is so unfortunate. And I like both direction, because if you think about it, we're told long time ago when we're younger, you don't have to accept abuse. If a man will hit you, more likely he'll hit you again. We heard all these things before. And you can get in a relationship, you're like, okay, he didn't mean it. That's one time. The second time. The third time. And it's the conditioning. So I see what's going on. And Vonda, when you said run, yeah, see, that's my instinct, to run. I'm not going to sit there and like, Now he didn't. He said he's not going to do it again. He was just mad that time. His check was short. And I'm not going to sit there and try to analyze that. I'm going to run. So I do understand people. Different women have different responses, and she's been here for a while because if she can tell the different stories about this is how it go, then she's been in it for a little while. She's 28 now. How long has she been in it, I wonder?
Right.
There's no indication of how long they've been married or anything. Just she's 28 and he's 35. That's it.
The longer she been in it and the younger it was when she got into it, the harder it is going to be for her to go.
Yeah.
Because basically, when you're in a long-term relationship and the younger you are, you grow up with that person, and depending on the man, that man, raises you as a woman if you follow his lead and follow, his guide, and what he says. And then all of a sudden you reach an age and you get this maturity and you're like, okay, I don't want to do that. That don't make no sense. And whack, you get a smack across the face. You done grown into a woman and he has absolutely no use for you anymore. He has no use for you anymore because, you done grown into a woman and now you're going against, hey, all the indoctrination that, he's tried to put into you, and you were good and you were on a good path for a while, but now you're starting to question stuff because in your heart, you're like, this is not right. I'm not happy. I don't know. I don't want to do this, because it ain't right. Doesn't sit well with you. Doesn't sit well with you. So you start to quote unquote rebel. You have family, outings with the friends. You're like, I don't want to go. And then he makes you look like, the sour puss.
Yeah. Exactly.
But see, he started that a long time ago, as he said, right? So and see, so she saw it happening. Everything was great. His brother died. At that point, when something unexpected happens like that, so he felt like he lost his power and control in the universe, because you can't control when your brother died, you can't take it back, whatever. So he decided, instead of at that point getting help, that he was not going to turn the rage inwards, but turn it outwards at you and regain all of his dominance, control, and power issues and insecurities now on you. But he understands, because anyone who has an abuser's mindset, and see, here's the thing, people, so I would give y'all an example, okay? If you are not the kind of person who would beat or think about beating your wife when you are sober, you would never beat her while you're drinking. It doesn't matter how drunk you get, you wouldn't do it. It's already a mindset within you. It's already a mindset within him. So it was already a mindset within him. He was a little bit controlling. He's a little bit domineering. You knew these things, but you thought it was sexy and powerful, maybe a little bit dangerous, but in an exciting way. And plus he was older than you, so, made sense and whatever. So you dismissed a lot of the warning signs and nothing really came of it anyway, until there was this big trigger in his life. Fine. Then he slowly started isolating you. And so it made you look standoffish. Why? Because first you come out once a week. Then it was once every other week. Then it was once a month. Then it's once every 2 months. Then it was and soon they never see you. As you said, now you have zero connections with anybody, right? And so it makes it look like, because every time you do show up, you make excuses, right? You blame it on yourself. It's your fault. You weren't feeling well. You were this, you were that. He's sitting there coaching them and saying, guys, don't be too hard on her. She's just been feeling a little antisocial lately. You'll see, right? And so now they're looking for signs you're antisocial. They're looking for signs this. They're looking for signs that. He knows what he is setting you up to do, okay? And he knows what he's setting you up to continue doing, because he understands, right, that while you're close to all these social networks, if he continues to beat you and sexually assault you and speak to you the way that he does, that you're going to tell somebody, right? And you tell enough people, they're going to start looking for signs in what he's doing, and then they're going to see it, and then he's going to have to either control his behavior, or they're going to take you away and he won't have his little battering ram anymore, right? So he knew exactly what he was doing. You have to understand that this was always in him. I know there's probably a part of you that thinks, because you mentioned it, So you thought it was relevant at the time. Well, his brother died, and so, right, this is why I'm talking about this right now. His brother died. He wasn't like this before. Maybe he can just get help, and maybe we can work through this together. And no, you can't. It was already there. There were already signs there. You just didn't think that they were going to lead to this. Okay. And if he was not the kind of person who would beat his wife before his brother died, he would not be beating his wife after his brother died. But you know what scares me more than the beating his wife is the sexual assault. It does. I'm going to be all the way 100 with you. It's one thing in anger for you to swing a fist at someone's face. It is another thing for you to violently rip someone's clothes off and then sexually violate them. Those are, to me, those are two different levels. If someone gets to that level, they dehumanize you. You are no longer a person to them, and they always had that in them. So don't make excuses. Don't think therapy might help him. Don't think, no. There's no, it was always there.
And also she needs to understand that, you know, she's the abused, the abused person. You know, far be it from the abused person to say, hey, you know, to their abuser, won't you get some counseling, you know, and let's, you know, get you some help. You know, you're right, Ruby. I do believe that this was something that was in him. And I didn't touch on, you know, the brother dying because you know what? And from the bottom of my soul, I don't give a damn if his mama died, his grandfather died, his uncle died, his sister died, the whole damn family died. I do not deserve to be the brunt of that type of abuse. But that event is probably what triggered it. But it was already in him.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't come out now with the brother dying and you know, getting him in full, you know, form, it was going to come out later, you know, when he lost his job or, you know, when something else happened. It was going to come out because this is something that's in this man, you know. And like I said, I'm sorry, I don't care. You know, because something happened to you does not mean something has to happen to me. So I'm not going to excuse your abuse to me because something happened to you. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we are, you know, have to be responsible for the abuse that happens to us. And it's not her responsibility to, okay, let's get you some counseling so you don't abuse me no more. Excuse me. He needs to not want to lose her and get some help. And not want to abuse the next person if he's really messed up with her. If he's closed the doors with her, then you know what? I don't want to be, you know, ending all my relationships because I'm an abusive, you know, fool and I won't get no help. It needs to matter to him, not to her. That's not her place. Her place and her responsibility is to herself first and foremost. You know, thank God, you know, I haven't heard that a child was involved in this arrangement whatsoever.
Right.
And thank God that there isn't a child. So, chick, it is you. Number one, yourself. Me, myself, and I. You got to think about yourself. Not this grown man who at some point has to figure out that he has a problem and he needs to find a remedy to it. Not your problem. Because you can find the best doctor in the country. You can pay the bill for that doctor. But if he doesn't think he has a problem and he wants to go see that doctor, he's still going to go upside your head. So get out.
I find it very interesting, the faces that he has, and people in general, how they do that. The face is like, oh, okay, I'm in front of this group, I'm going to act this way. Oh, I'm in front of this group, I'm going to act this way. I always wonder about that. And the fact that if you can control that, that tells me you know what you're doing. That's why, me personally, I don't like disrespect, because I'll stop you immediately and say, hey, wait a minute, what did you say? Because I'm going to stop you right there. I don't care how angry you are. We're going to discuss what just happened. And if you don't calm down to discuss it, I'll walk away. And if I talk to you later, and that's a big if, and you can be quiet, Dunteezy, okay? I don't want to hear it. If I do talk to you later, I'm just going to ask you some questions. And if you can logically tell me, oh, yeah, you did ask me, why did I say that? Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to hear it. Okay, and why weren't you trying to hear it? Well, see, because and if you could, we can go through all of that, then you could have stopped and slowed down at that time because I didn't, stay around long enough to really, for it to get too far. So back to this guy, the fact that he can put on all these different faces in front of all these different people is controlled. He
Mhm.
knows what he's doing.
You
So
know,
I wouldn't, I don't care if he gets help or not. I want the woman to get out of there.
yeah,
She needs some help. Get on out of there, woman.
that's not my issue. That's not my worry. And even if I were the woman
Mhm.
in the situation, you know what? I would, if I loved the man, I would love for you to get help. But you know what, my G, I'm first and foremost, and it's not my worry or even my responsibility or job to look for the doctor and tell you where you can go, who takes your copay. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not doing any of that. That is up to you. You have to think that it's more important because you're losing the gem of your life. But I mean, I don't really give a damn if you felt that way or not. I'm gone because I need to be protected. I'm not going to be taking a smack in the mouth and upside my head, every time, you're wrinkled and bent out of shape. It's no, thank you.
Hmm. I mean, you have to think about it, right? When we're talking about sexual assault, we're talking about, abuse of any kind. It's not about actual sexual gratification. It's not. It's about
Mhm.
power. It's always about power and dominance. And so this is why you see these things inside of the household, right? With people who are abusers versus just, because we all know somebody who's just a violent person. They violent no matter man, woman, or child. They don't care, right? You talk to them the wrong way, they're gonna swing first and think later, right? Because they just have an anger management issue. It's not specific.
Right.
They can't hold it till they get home. They're angry all the time, and they got a hair trigger all the time, right? That's anger management, right? Now, when we're talking about this power and dominance thing, right? These are people who feel powerless or understand their lack of a certain amount of power in the world. And every little slight that they take throughout the day, they store it up. And a fury's building inside of them. And they go into their house, and what they've decided is that their woman or their child or both, right? Is since that person is submissive to them, that person is subservient to them, that person is a lower level than them. This person is below me. There is someone who's definitively below me that I could step on the way that the world stepped on me. Okay, so that is in essence that's why I said you're now dehumanized. You are not a person anymore. You are a beat up dolly, and you are a beat up dolly with less status than him, right? And so then when he beats you up, when he does all these terrible things to you, and there are no repercussions, that is proof of his power. That is guaranteeing that the next time that ball of fury, that ball of whatever builds up, it's going to be taken out on you because it was satisfying and it proved that, you know what, basically he's like a god. He can do this. There's no repercussions like there isn't everything else in his life. Right.
Mhm.
And this is why you also will guarantee that it will happen more and more frequently, more and more seriously until death. Right. Because it's like a drug. Right. The first time you do this drug, oh, it's amazing. Da da da. First time you take a shot, oh my God, I'm so drunk. Right. But the more you do it, right, the more you need of it in order for it to have the same effect, right? And then the more you do it, the more often you can do it, right? Because, you might drink once when you're, 13, 14, whatever it may, you sick for like a week or two. You don't even want to think about alcohol again for a month. And then, when you're 18, suddenly you're binging on the weekends at first. And then it's like, you can binge every day. You're good,
Yeah.
right?
It
It's
progresses. It progresses.
yes,
You
right?
you
It's
it that they call it addiction for a reason. It grows. It
Mhm.
grows. It started out with you not really liking it, but then it was like, hey, can I get that again? I'd like to get that again. You know.
Mhm. I mean, you have to watch. I was in an abusive relationship. This is why I can say 1,000%, right? That it's not just research and books that say this, that 100%, there are signs, red flags, way before the first abusive thing happens, way before the actual grooming process happens. There are already signs. Um, So, for example, you burned the dinner. He screams about it instead of like just maybe he's a little disappointed or whatever, but like gets frustrated. No, he screams or bangs the table, and then when he apologizes, because he'll apologize, he'll say, I hate when you make me so angry, babe. Not,
You know what? That's key for me. Anytime a man says that you made me angry, I'm already putting together my 4-point plan to get the hell up out of there. I didn't make you do anything. I didn't make you do anything.
Right. I made a mistake. I burned the damn rice. I wasn't paying attention. I'm not happy about it either. Right. You felt angry about my mistake. Understandable. You chose to allow the behavior that you did. Your anger and your resulting behavior is on you. If you're not owning your anger, you're not owning your behavior. If you're telling me somehow it's my fault in some way, I did this to you. How dare I do this to you? Or even if you're just saying, I'm so sorry that you did this to me. Even like that. As soon as you phrase it like that, I hear the red flags popping off because you're already putting accountability and responsibility on me. Soon it'll be every little thing. Every little thing. I remember once we walked into an elevator. This was before, the first punches to my face. Walked into an elevator and I can't remember what I said or did. It was something really small. He just didn't like it. Maybe it was an attitude I had. We were on our way up to his friend's condo. We're in the elevator and he just went whoosh behind my head, like really hard. Like, just slap someone upside their head like that on TV. But for real, and really hard.
Girl, that would have been the first Solange fight in my life. We'd have been going off in that elevator. It's like, what the hell?
But by then I was already so conditioned that it was my fault. I did this. I was wrong, right? And I knew I was wrong. And then the tears started bubbling up in my eyes, right? And he's like, and you better not let one effing tear fall. And then I was like, oh my God, if I let a tear fall, I'm so wrong. I'm going to bring our business into his friend's house. Oh my God, I would be so I'm already, see, now by then I've already been well conditioned to take all accountability and all blame for everything. Right. So it can't possibly be his fault. Right. That, well, if he didn't want me crying at his friend's house, he probably shouldn't have hit me in the elevator on the way upstairs. Right. Now that's logical. Right. But you're not thinking logically. Like I said, no one starts abusing you on day one. If they did, without doing all this grooming and conditioning first, it would not go the way that it goes. It goes that way because first they break you down. Doesn't matter how quiet and submissive and whatever personality you are. There are some no-go zones that you would just be like, oh, hell no. Unless you are slowly conditioned first. You have to learn to see the signs of the slow conditioning. And, I'm hoping that once our lady here gets out of this situation and environment, she really does go get that counseling so she can first work on herself, because it takes a long time for you to understand and truly accept, like, you weren't at fault. You didn't do anything wrong. He's the abnormal one. That's not normal. It's not normal for someone to react like that. It's not normal for someone to think this. It's not normal.
And I completely agree with that, Ruby, which is why I say to get away, because people you don't understand the power in separation until you've been separated. If you've been separated by a good thing, meaning a loved one, just imagine the effect that's going to happen being separated by an evil one. You have to have that separation. And the sooner and the quicker you do that separation, the easier it is for you to get past it. And I don't, downplay, counseling and getting your head right, because after you've gotten out of the danger of the situation, you have to go back and roll back through your head and not blame yourself. Like, why the hell did I let myself get into this mess? And I walked around with no job and I'm starting all over, because, it's a whole process. It's a whole mental thing. So my thing is that the separation, once you have the separation from that person, healing begins immediately. But if you're in the same environment, if you're in the same house with that person, that toxicity is like a mold that you're breathing in every day. when you're in that household. So once there's separation, that's when the healing begins. And we've all heard that saying, out of sight, out of mind. That shit is real. That shit is for real. It's not a myth. That is for real. So if that evilness and that nastiness and that daily verbal abuse and that occasional sexual abuse and physical abuse is not in your face, you're going to learn to love your life and love not having that.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that I did hear from someone who has been abusive is that he would pick people intentionally that were lower than him on the totem pole. That is to say, if you rate him like an 8, as far as appearance, you rate her, we'll say a 5 with her weight on, a 6 with the weight off kind of thing, right? He wanted, and then, as far as money, he was wealthy, so he would pick a girl who is relatively poor, doesn't have much, is struggling, stuff like that, right? And there's a reason for that, again, right? Because everything is about conditioning you into thinking you'll never find someone as good as me again, right? This is what the life is. You deserve this. You would know better if only you were from higher stock, if only you were older. I bet she got a lot of the if you were older, because that's what I got. I was actually a lot younger at the start of my relationship. I'm gonna guess she wasn't 16 when the relationship started. I was 16. But that whole I should act like an adult thing. And so I don't know if my reaction to this is me being childish, right? Or me being logical. Now I understand it's me being logical and self-preserving. But at the time, when you're 16, you don't actually know. When you're 21, 25, you don't actually know, right? So maybe I am being childish. Maybe I am being lowbrow. Maybe I am being low class, right? Maybe this is how things are supposed to be. I said I wanted this life, right? So you don't necessarily know what you're agreeing to, you're getting yourself into. And the one thing that they make sure that they do is isolate you away from everything else. So it's like, well, if you give him up, you're giving up everything, which you just found out, right? You found out when you went to talk to your best friend and you found out she's not your friend anymore, right? If you talk to any of your friends, any of your coworkers, you're gonna find out the same thing. Trust me, he's been sliding in little tidbits, not direct ones like you would want to
slide comments. He's been real slick with the comments and your behavior. People like, oh yeah, she has been kind of withdrawn, not knowing that the night before, he, pounced on you and, made you do things you didn't want to do, and I'm just thinking in terms of sexual abuse, or you got into a fight and, he, blacked your eye and, you got an extra, cake of makeup on it, because you're trying to hide it. Nobody wants to display that. And it's like, but everybody thinks he's the great one and you're the weird one because you're being standoffish and withdrawn.
Right? And this is what will happen. I'm telling you, my family, I was 16 to 18. My family thought I was crazy. I was crazy and melodramatic and made stuff up, right? And this guy who's 7 years older than me is not abusive at all. And so at 2:00 in the morning, actually, I think it was more like 3:00 in the morning, when I ran up 8 flights of stairs in a little crop top in my panties, no shoes, nothing, banging on my grandmother's door because she lived in the same building as us. She let me in, and I said I was smoking in the stairwell like this, and then some girls beat me up like this again. That somehow this was a plausible story to my whole family. When I went back downstairs, my face is so black and blue, my eyes are swollen shut, and I have to put makeup on it just so I don't look purple.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Oh yeah, no, it was really bad. But somehow or another, when I try to backtrack that story afterwards and say he hit me, he was going to kill me, right? I was treated like I was crazy. He's a great guy. We walk to the beer store together. We do this together. We do that. He's a great guy. What are you talking about, right? I'm melodramatic. I like to make up a lot of noise, especially if I've had a drink today. So where did you get this from? Oh, you got it from him. Oh, I get it now, but I didn't understand at the time. So I literally was now being gaslit by my family, who didn't understand that they were gaslighting me, right? As an extension of him. And I'm feeling crazy, Right? I'm feeling almost insane. And that's why I said, like, do not do this. Do not go to coworkers. Don't go to these people and try to get them on your side. It is not going to work, and it will make you feel horrible and very low in the process, because that's how they work. Long before they put a hand on you, they started slipping those comments in. They know where they're going with this. They know what they're doing. And it's a whole entire, they don't have to sit there and read a manual on it. It's a whole entire psychology of a person. A person like this.
It's in them. It's in them, and it does have to do with their upbringing. You know, the abuser in my life, you know, he was charming as well, you know. But my thing with him is that, or the thing with him is that, you know, his cracks showed a lot sooner. You know, he was able to initially come in and just, you know, give that great smile and be, you know, act and appear gullible and, oh, you know, I'm, you know, respectable Southern boy, and you know, I don't know much, that type of thing. But you know, my mom is, you know, my mom's not stupid. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, you know, my mom could see things, you know, and she would say things, you know. And, you know, my thing is, you know, I recognize signs because that wasn't the first time I dealt with someone who was abusive, you know. So it was like, I knew the signs as well, you know. So when it came time for me to, you know, be like, oh, you know what, I'm out for this, you know, I'm done. You know, it wasn't, what, Bonnie, you're crazy. He's charming. You know, he's this, he's that. They were like, oh, well, girl, I was wondering when you was going to see it, you know, because his crack showed really soon. You know, so and that was, you know, that and sometimes it works out that way, you know.
Right. But if it doesn't just work out that way, you can't force it. And like, I understand how unfair that feels, right? Because like, you don't feel like, since you're not the one who did anything wrong, that you should have to lose everything. And I get that, I do, but who cares? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be gaining the one most precious thing, which is your life and future, right? Because you won't, I'm telling you, the amount of harm you're going to do to yourself with other people's reactions, and the amount of years of therapy you're going to need for that, it's better for you to keep sitting there and thinking to yourself 10 years from now, oh, if I told them, they probably would have been supportive, and leaving it at that in your head. Seriously, you do not want the opposite reaction, because I had like, what, 5-6 years of drinking over just that fact. Like, no one believed me. Like, I was like, no one cared, no one believed me for years, like for like a decade. Eventually they believed me. Eventually they realized, but you know, at the end, I was already out of that relationship and into not even the next one, but the one after that. Before it was like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I was a piece of shit at the time and really selfish and focused on self. Listen, people have all kinds of very selfish, self-motivated reasons for believing what they believe in life. If I like you the most and you're the one who I have the most fun with and I connect the best with, and you share the most secrets with me and vice versa, I have a vested interest in believing you over believing someone who says something about you. That's just reality. You know, and so you want people to care. I get it. But like I said, even if they did care, they can't help you. Them validating you and saying, I believe you, isn't going to give you what you need, because they do not understand. They don't relate. And they can't say anything to you other than a bunch of stuff that's going to sound really ignorant, because they don't know, they've never been there, they've never gone through this, and they never experienced this, and as a result, how can they be helpful? And that's why, you know, I keep going back to this self-help group thing. In fact, and I don't want to overstate this too much, but I do know that there are previous and current wives of cops who go to these types of groups for the exact same reason that you're ultimately saying, well, I won't be pressing charges, can't do anything like that, because they're in the same position. And so, you know, you want to find someone who's been literally through what you've been through and literally feeling like, God, now I can't even go to the cops. What the hell? That's where you're going to find them, because they're not going to be speaking out publicly. They're not going to be speaking out on social media. They're not going to be doing stuff like that, just like you can't, and for the same reasons. But they can tell you what they were able to do. And they're going to be able to tell you what did and didn't work. You know, some of them were successful in their divorces as far as XYZ that you might want to know about, you know? So, you know, you want to go there and get strength and get fuel and, you know, have someone tell you, like, girl, you're not crazy. Now that was messed up. Now he shouldn't have done that thing, right? It might be something small. And it's like, no, the normal people will probably tell you maybe that's not a big deal, but in context, maybe that was a big deal, you know? So yeah, I really think you should be doing that. I don't know what state you live in, or I'd be looking up all the right helplines and places you could go for meetings and whatnot. But I think that's something you need to put number one on your priority list. Even if you live up in the house, you live up in the house, it does not matter. When he goes out 5 nights a week with y'all's friends, right? And you're not going anymore, obviously. And when he's sitting there at lunch with y'all's coworkers, right? This is what you could be doing instead. You could be communicating with a network of friends and support systems and whatever that can help walk you through the process to get you to the place where you're ready to leave permanently, where you're, if you've already left, get you to the place where you're ready to just literally be done, you know what I mean, and move forward, or safety tips, stuff like that. So use your time wisely. You got it now, so use the time wisely.
That's true. She's definitely gonna have to go on the outside. And you know, like I said, it saddened me, but also I'm like, how does she know? And I wondered about this. I just really wondered. She says she knows she can't go and call the police. I'm like, how does she know? Have she seen this in the
Exactly,
father's
Char.
household? I mean,
Yes.
I just want to know that. I really would like to know.
You know what, Char, the fact that you say that and the fact that she even said that, it tells me that she knows how connected he is to the police department. She doesn't even feel like, oh, well, you know, because the first thing, you know, hey, we would tell her, girl, you better go to the authority. She's like, look, I'm asking for advice, but first of all, don't tell me to go to the authorities because this, that, and the third. And you're like, oh, she knows. That's why I'm saying that she gave the information. That's why I was saying, girl, run, get the hell out of there. And, you know, with Ruby, hey, get you some counseling. You know, I would never be one to forego counseling and say, oh, you know what, forget the counseling. No, because you know what, not everybody, you know, can, you know, get their mind right. Sometimes it takes someone to, you know, bring, you know, a topic or a conversation out of you to kind of, you know, set the bars up straight for you, you know, and that's okay. There's absolutely no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, but her immediate and foremost, my mind goes to, you know what, you need to protect yourself and you need not to be in opposition to this man. You know, if he's not saying, you know, if I can't have you, nobody will, then girl, just quietly slink away. You know, just go on and get up out of there and damn them friends and damn the friend from high school, because you know what, you'll catch up with her later and you can have your words with her. But get out of that area. Just get out of it, because like I said, if an unfortunate accident befalls her, they'll be like, you know what, she was acting kind of funny. You know, I'm not surprised she ended up floating in the tub, or she was hanging from the rafters in, you know, the bedroom, or who knows? Come on now. It's time to go.
Yeah, we know how those stories go. Yeah, when she's at work, she was all by herself, and you know, she really didn't talk to Frank.
She was withdrawn. You know, it's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, don't be. No, I don't know. I wasn't withdrawn. I still talk to everybody. You know, it's like, no, it's like setting up a narrative that would be to his benefit, because they'd be like, well, have you ever seen, you know, Jerome get upset? No, but you know, I seen, you know, Candace go off, you know, the handle a few times, and you know, but I just thought it was just one of those things, you know. No, we don't need those situations. And my thing is in life, we pick our battles. Every battle's not yours to, you know, be the victor of. You know, sometimes you have to just quietly, you know, take your spot and, you know, just move out, because you have to weigh the options and figure out what's more important. And for me, if this man is physically abusive, sexually abusive and verbally abusive, that's beating you down in all types of ways. And I'm looking, to what's going to preserve you the most, what's going to be best for you. But, complete, isolation from this man.
I mean, as weird as it is to say as well, I mean, because she says she's 28 now. Obviously, we're not 100% sure she stayed or she left or exactly what's happening there. But I'm going to say this. It's probably not going to be super popular with some people, but whatever it is, what it is. So I've noticed, right? And I'm not saying that there was, there's never been a culture of violence or aggression or anything like that with the police. I'm just going to say this. I've noticed that culture of aggression and the worst thing in the world is disrespecting the cops and whatever, that whole culture is increasing like exponentially minute on minute. I mean, we just looked last week at a cop who felt like the biggest, baddest man on campus for bullying and, manhandling an 80-something-year-old woman with dementia who clearly was lost and dazed and confused and terrified, who hadn't actually really committed a crime at the end of the day, which is all information he would have known before he went and did what he did. Now, there's no way that a big grown man should feel amazing for manhandling an 8-year-old woman with dementia. You shouldn't, right? But there's this thing now, right? That ultimately, you better respect me. The littlest lack of respect, I feel entitled to pull up my gun and shoot you. The littlest lack of compliance, I feel entitled to pull up my gun and shoot you. Now, if that's the way they're dealing with the, public, when cameras are on them, when, they're going to be under scrutiny and whatnot, I don't feel comfortable about the way that same kind of cop is going to go home and deal with his family. I'm just going to be real, because there you're not under scrutiny. There's already an unfair power dynamic and blah, 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 blah. So, to me, again, it's just what I'm saying to you, you're not making the connections. If you haven't left, or if you're considering maybe you should go back because you're feeling lonely or whatever, just consider that one thing, right? At the end of the day, right, this person's father, uncle, and grandfather, someone else, they're all part of the police force. This is his culture, right? His culture growing up, the way he was reared, what he was reared to think and believe, and how he processes the world is very from the police force, because that's what he was born and raised into, right? And his closest family members, police force.
True.
Right.
So he's going to have the same mentality. And when he speaks to his family after he's killed you, right, and he explains the situation, they're going to go, oh, yeah, we understand. Disrespect is, you shouldn't have had to tolerate that, son. Come, don't worry. We'll clean that up for you. And that's going to be that. And you just disappear. That's it. So, you have to understand, the danger inherent in that, right, is that you don't feel comfortable calling police because you don't think they're going to do anything. But understand that maybe it's a more risky situation than someone who isn't so fully connected and cultured to the police because of that connection, So, yeah, you need to, and you know what? Not for anything, but I've seen too many stories of people who were wrongfully convicted, wrongfully pursued, wrongfully harassed by the cops. And so, hey, now they're going to be suing the city and whatever. And guess what? The cops just pin them with something else, like making a murderer. If you haven't seen the documentary, go watch it. It literally made a murder, and then pinned it on him. And he's still in prison now. He spent more of his life in prison than out of prison for 2 crimes he has not committed. So now you have to understand that if they can do that, what do you think that do you think there might be repercussions if you start telling the workplace about him? Because that would be my concern. Well, he abused me, whatever. Now there's office scuttlebutt about how he's abusive. You go to HR and he gets demoted or loses his job without cause or proof.
Which is why I advise her to, just, quietly duck out, it all depends, if she's looking for vindication, but she seems to be very private about it. She tried to talk to the one person who should have been the one to listen to her. The friends that she made when she was with him were not really her friends, but her friend from, school, a childhood friend. I'm sorry, if you talk to that person, she'd be the first and only person, if anybody out of all of those people mentioned, to believe her. And she didn't believe him. She went straight back to the dude and was like, "Hey, Vonda's over there saying you abused her. What's going on? What y'all doing?" You'd be like, "What the hell? I can't believe she did that," because I would never. It's not my place. It wasn't her place to do that. But she felt so comfortable with him and felt so, to me, I think it's disloyal. I truly think it's disloyal to your friend to, when she was coming from her heart with some stuff to you that's going on in her marriage, and if you know this woman and you've known her, since high school or, your childhood, she's not just a drama queen and she's not just making it up. So you're like, okay, well, girl, I wonder why you feel that way. Because these are the things that I would say to myself, like, what? He did what? He seems so different. But like I say, you don't know what goes on between a man and a woman behind closed doors. People are different.
I also like to know, how did the brother die? Because I know he can be upset, but was his brother a police officer? I'm really wondering.
That's a good question.
Right. Obviously it was something sudden and unexpected. And I know that maybe me saying sudden obviously is a stretch, but I say obviously because normally when you have some time, like let's say it's a long illness, even though there's gonna be obviously some issues thereafter, I just feel like you have a little bit more time to process and you don't just automatically fall into something this detrimental. So I feel like it was probably triggering and therefore sudden. So it could be he was on the force and you got shot. Something could be a car accident. I think it was something like that, something very sudden. For all we know, it was COVID from last year. And because when I think about it now, right, because we haven't really factored COVID into this conversation, but let's do that here for a quick second. The violence in the home rates have gone up exponentially since COVID started. And it's because people who don't normally spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together are now doing so and finding out they don't much like each other. And so to begin with, and I'm not even saying domestic abuse, just violence within the home from both parties on both sides to begin with, let alone abuse rates that have gone up. Violence rates outside, just public violence and other types of crimes skyrocketing, right? So people are feeling very helpless. People are feeling scared. People are feeling bored. These are not great combinations. And so maybe his brother got COVID, simple as that, and died. And that's it. And now you are in a completely different environment where you're stuck with this woman all the time that you're not used to being stuck with. Like, you see each other at work and it's kind of, hi, babe. But mostly you spend, your 4 or 5 hours a night together and you're good. And then it's COVID. So you're literally staying at home 24/7 with each other. You're miserable. She wants to be there for you. You want her to not be near you, blah, 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 blah. So the story goes. And then, you know what? You decide to turn all that internal pain into rage and violence. And as I said, right? So, it could be COVID related, which again, might be why it is that she's kind of like, well, I'm not even sure what advice I'm asking for. Maybe she's just explained and rationalized it. Like, she's not asking, why did he suddenly become an abusive monster? She didn't ask that. She didn't even seem confused or shocked by it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're right. She doesn't seem surprised by it. So maybe there were indicators before he actually acted out. You know, maybe he had a tendency to talk rough to her, but had never put his hands on her. You know, and the maybe what it was when he talked rough to her, it was, you know, what he said and how he said it. That she was like, oh, wait a minute, that appears to be a little out of character, but I'm going to one off it. And we have a tendency to one off a lot of things, you know, and that's where I think a lot of times, you know, that's where the mistake is made is just one offing things, like, you know, oh my God, you know, this is just like a one off. And it's like, no, you know, you really need to react, you know, with this immediately. And the reaction needs to be harsh, especially if it's physical violence towards you. There's no way to, oh well, I'll accept it this one time, you know, because chances are it's going to happen again. The chances are extremely high. And that's not to say that, you know, a man has not hit his woman once and, you know, she left him, you know, and was gone for 6 months and he learned his lesson and never hit her again. Those situations do exist, but are they common? No. You know, the old saying is, you know, if he did it once, he'll do it again. You know, Joe W said it in the chat. He did it once, he'll do it again. And usually that's what you have to go with, because, or sacrifice your face or a couple of teeth or, you know, your eye socket or some mess, whatever it is that his, you know, the way he beats you. And, you know, I'm not built for that. No. You can punch every hole in the wall that you want to. Matter of fact, go and take your car and run it into a brick wall, because I don't want to be on the receiving end of another man's abuse. You know, I don't know how severe that's going to be. And I don't want to feel it. That hurts. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. So I'm not sacrificing that. I don't want that. I don't deserve that. And you need to go and deal with yourself.
Yeah, no. Anger doesn't bother me. Doesn't faze me anymore. I mean, honestly, since the abusive relationship, doesn't faze me. You can be as angry, you can punch holes, you can scream, you can break shit. I don't care. The only issue I have is you coming for me. You try to grab me, hit me, or otherwise, in any way, shape, or form, physically threaten my safety and well-being in any significant way. No, I'm the first of all, I'm grabbing a knife. That's the very first thing.
Right.
I'm so serious. I've made this a crystal clear to every man I've been with since that point. Is that if you ever put your hands on me, the first thing I'm doing is grabbing a knife. The second thing is, once I grab the knife, you better be nowhere near me, because I won't come running for you. But if you come near me, I will gut you. The end. That's it. At best, I will cut off your balls, and I do mean literally. If you somehow get the knife away from me, and then you manage to physically assault me, I will wait till you're sleeping, and I will cut off your balls. 1,000% will do it. Now, people might think this is an overreaction, but I don't think it is. I don't put my hands on you, so you don't put your hands on me. I think this is a reasonable trade-off, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
What I think, right?
Okay, you got trees outside. You can chop them down. You know, there's boxing rings. There's a lot of places where you can swing and hit.
There's Jordans on your feet. Run your ass around the block 178 times. But what I'm not having is you putting your hands on me. No. I'm not excusing it. Oh, well, I made him mad. I don't give a damn. If you're not protecting yourself from being an immediate threat from me, like I'm coming at you with an iron or a knife, don't put your hands on me. I'm not dealing with that.
Right? No.
And that's why I tell her, you know, it's like, you know what, if it's come to that, then the fact that they're going through a divorce right now, that's the right thing to do. But as far as like the and I can hear it in the letter, she's mourning the loss of all these people. Child, let them go. Let them go. You let them go, because they weren't for you no way at the end of the day. And it is not your job to convince them of who this man is. Let him get to the next woman, and he's not going to change who he is. So he's going to be the same way with her. And we'll just see how she reacts. But you don't need to sit around with binoculars waiting for it to happen. Get yourself in a level of, protection and safety, and forget about this man. Don't be kicking up dust. I mean, what is that going to serve you? Unless you have a chance of really getting something out of this, what does that serve you to continue to tell everybody, oh no, he was abusive, he did this to me and he did that, and I can't go to the police? I mean, where are you going with that? You have to pick your battles. Pick your battles.
I think I know where she's going with it. So I think this is her first real long-term adult relationship. B, I don't think she's ever really had a large friend group like that, right? Like, because she's still connected to her best friend. So if they're part of a whole group of friends, they'd be connected still to the whole group of friends, not just to the one best friend. I don't think she's ever had a large friend group. I think that being with this guy and him being the social lubricant is the first time she's ever had a big friend group. She's finally felt what it is, like Cheers, where everyone knows your name. You finally have a group. And that group belonging feels amazing, and she doesn't want to lose the group belonging. And because this is her first adult relationship, she doesn't understand that, it's not like, oh my God, well, without him, you'll never develop one of those again. Like, no, that's not what happens. And, I know what this is like, because for me, the hardest part of breaking up with someone is not breaking up with the individual. If I want to break up with them, at that point, I'm already done with them. The hardest part for me is normally breaking up with their family and friends. That is my issue. It's always my issue. It always comes down to that for me. I might stay an extra year or two in a relationship over that one fact. So I don't want to lose their family and friends. So I'm willing now to tolerate you and your nonsense, and not really liking you even anymore to this point, because I don't want to lose the friends and the family. And so I kind of know what it is to want to hold on to that. But I'm going to tell you something. It's a little secret. Even with me, those friends, the ones that I had back when I was 16 through 19, I don't think about them anymore. The ones that I had when my relationship went 1920, don't even think about them anymore. Right. And I thought, like, seriously, my whole life was over. Right. Because without them, I have no friends anymore. And I'm not a social, like, it seems like I'm the social one. I totally understand that, y'all. I am the antisocial one. I'm a very antisocial person. I'm very socially awkward, and I'm very socially retarded. I don't really know how to just make friends, and just, I don't know how to do that. It's not the thing for me. Right. So normally whoever I'm in a relationship with, that's their kind of role. Which is why I normally absorb into their friend groups and whatnot. Right. So I understand the feeling of no, I'm telling you, in 2 years, you're going to be glad that you're not connected to those people anymore, because they're not going to fit you anymore. Like, you're going to think about the person you were that fit in with that group of people and recognize that you don't even remotely resemble that person, because your whole life has changed, right? The relationship's over, but you've grown and changed since then. You've become something completely different, something completely else, right? And that new else person is not going to fit best with this group of people, right? It's going to be like you trying to wear your shoes from the 3rd grade when you're in the 6th grade. Like, they don't fit anymore. Just because they were your favorite, they don't fit, right? It's going to be like that. So, I know how that feels, and it's hard and awkward and, at the beginning, right? You have to have like a cordial relationship with your coworkers, but you don't have to be friends with them. In fact, I don't think I've ever been friends with any of my coworkers ever. Like, ever. Like, you don't have to be friends with them.
Yeah, I've got some good relationships through coworkers, but that's what I was actually going to mention, that she's going to meet a lot of new people when she changed jobs.
Right.
And hey, you're going to find someone that's interested in something you like, and it can start there. You meet somebody through them. So, whatever group that you join, you meet someone through there.
Right.
Go on vacation, you may meet someone there. So there's a lot of opportunity outside of this guy and this particular job. So it's not over. You
Hmm.
still got a long way to go. Long way. I don't know if you can get a pension. They probably don't make them anymore by the time you get 65.
For sure. They don't make pensions no more.
No, I don't think they're gonna have any for her, but for sure, she got a long way to go. So many different things, and slowly the world is opening back up. Give it 2 years, as
Hmm.
Ruby mentioned. Shoot, you're gonna be out there, probably no mask. They'll just say, forget the mask.
And
Take
like
your
I say,
Mhm.
don't go out there with a whole bunch of dust. I mean, what are you trying to prove? My thing is that, men typically tend to not like rejection. And if you're the one who's saying, you know what, enough, I'm done with this relationship, they're like, no, it's not over until I say it's over, and it's not over until I kill you. You don't know that that's extreme. That is the last case scenario, because after you're dead, your story ends, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So my thing is that you have to look at it like, let me just put myself first, and I don't want to be at this anymore. He doesn't want to be with me. I don't need to convince all of our friends that, he's a jerk and, a butthole, because people tend to show their true colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bow out, because you got to realize people tend to get really angry when you reject them. And you don't know how a person's going to react. We can always one off this and be like, oh, this is not a Drew Peterson situation. There are a lot of women, that reject men and, whatnot. But you have to realize that um people tend, and men, I'm just going to say men tend to react, very violently when they're rejected. They don't like it. They do not like it. And if she's saying, hey, we need to end this, and she's going on and on about it, he's going to be like, you know what? She needs to stop this. I didn't put it into this. She did. And you know what? Because I didn't put it into it, let's do some other things, you
And
know.
I'm gonna say this for Don Teasy because he always teases me.
He sure does.
Um, mhm. The reason why I end things so quickly, because once I see something, I know that's not going to work for me. I'm not going to stick around. I take my losses early. I don't invest a long time. I just never had. I'm like, okay. Oh, he wants to do this. Oh, well, okay. All right. You win. I'm not going to fight
Mm.
you. You win, whatever it is. Well, see, um, you should be more supportive because such and such. You know what? You're right. And I wasn't, and I'm not. So this is the end. I hope you find someone that will work things out because I'm just not that girl. And I try not to seem so sarcastic, but it be sarcastic in my mind anyway,
But
because
you
I'm
know
out.
what, Char? It's so funny because you are so like that, just cut and blunt. And I tend to be on the opposite end where, I might stay a little bit too long, because I just be thinking, what if? What if? And sometimes you have to find your balance, not to say,
Hmm.
maybe you need to give it a little bit more time. And maybe I need to give it a little less time. I mean, what are you waiting for? Because I'm the one sitting up here saying, hey, go, go. But for me, that came with time. I can't say that I would have started out the gate that way, but I completely understand why it is that way. Because why waste this additional time? Because you can waste a lot of time and a lot of years of your life for something that's never going to go anywhere.
Hmm.
That's
Boy,
true.
Ruby's the queen of wasting my life on lost causes, okay? I am the lost causes queen. It's what I do best, apparently. Not on purpose, it just is. But that's the reason why, because but people have potential and I have hope and da da da. Right? Like and I think I'm not being a ride or die, or I'm not being a good person if I just don't wait for that potential to finally grow. Like I'm telling you. I've done this to my own life so many times that I can say with absolute surety at 36 years old that it is literally a waste. Literally. There's nothing else it is. You know, I'll tell you a story now. This guy, I have a friend, we'll call her Kay. Now Kay, I met her through my ex-boyfriend at the time. And, you know, she was basically the girlfriend of his ex-girlfriend's little brother. Weird scenario. I don't know. I don't. He became friends with the little brother, you know, kind of like big homie, little homie thing, whatever. So this is how I met Kay. Now, Kay had been at this point with this dude, and she's younger than me, but I will say about 4 years. And she had been with this dude since high school, like since maybe the 9th grade, 10th grade. Now they're adults, right? And she used to call me crying. Oh, Daddy, he cheated on me. He this and that on me again. And I would say, leave. Well, why? Because yeah, but I've already invested 7 years of my life into him, and I don't want it to have been for nothing. But it was for nothing. Like, think about how you're going to feel in 10 years from now when you're calling and now you're saying 17 years. You've invested 17 years and he's still lying and cheating and disrespecting you and da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, very overtly. Like, he would cheat on her. The one time I saw something, I decided I didn't like this guy. We all went to a club together, and me and her had gone to the bathroom, you know, like girls do, whatever. Girls always need company to go to the bathroom. I don't understand why, but whatever. So we went to the bathroom, we came back, and he's sitting at a table with a very hot looking girl in a very teeny tiny mini dress. You know, and he had clearly bought her a drink because we watched the drinks get served and he paid the bartender lady and whatever. And so now Kay walks up to the table, grabs a drink and throws it in the girl's face. Now, that wouldn't have been my move. I would have thrown it in his face, but all right. He gets up. I think maybe to calm her down or to be like, I'm sorry, it's something. Nope. He gets up and literally swings and punches her in her face.
Oh no.
Wow.
But yeah, I've never been so flabbergasted and all. I was so furious. I was clearly more furious than she was, though, because, you know, they're back together again, and they're all together, they're all together. And this is the same stuff that keeps happening. Same stuff that keeps happening. He would obviously, even when she's there, he doesn't love you, honey. He's posting videos of him smashing chicks on whatever, on Instagram or Facebook, whatever. Dude, doesn't love you. He told you he's homesick in bed, then he posts a video on Instagram, you know, with girls crawling all over his lap. He doesn't love you, right? And she doesn't want to process it. She didn't want to process it. Eventually, they break up for like 9 months, and she's sitting there scheming on Facebook, trying to make him jealous enough to call her so she could get him back. Then they get back together. Then they move in together. Then they break up again, and then they move back in together. And then they get engaged, and they break up again, and then they get back together. And it was like this. It was like this for another 11 years. 11 years. So this girl, who's now 33 years old, I'm telling you, when I first met her, she was about 20, 21. I swear to God, this girl looked like a China doll. Like, she looked like someone had crafted her in a studio. She was short, yes, but she was gorgeous. Perfect little body. She's like the kind of girl who likes to wear like little dresses and heels all the time. Always like perfectly accessorized. Hair's always done. Makeup's always perfect. Not too much, but just enough. She looked like a doll all the time. Now she's 32. She's gained weight. You know, she got wrinkles because, you know, she's like Spanish, but like Spaniard Spanish, so like white and whatever. And you're just like she threw away all of those years of her good looks and her, you know what I mean? Whatever. Now she's starting to look a lot older suddenly. She has had 9 abortions, 9, because this man only likes to do bareback. Right? Doesn't want to use protection, but doesn't want her to have his baby. And, you know, whatever he says. Yeah. And this just kept happening. Do you understand the kind of ruin that she did to her life, to her body, to her finances, whatever, over I don't want to throw away the years. Well, think about that. So she was like 50 when they got together. You know, it's like 17 years later. Like I said, and he left her because he found out that she slept with one of his friends like 5 years ago. And now he's not coming back. Yeah. So, and then there you go. So now what? See, this is my whole point. My whole point is, right, we stay and waste our lives, right, over potential, over I don't want to lose everything, over this, over that. She would have been so much happier if she had just left that man. You know how many great men came along in her 20s that she said, no, I'm in love with my little loser boyfriend. And they said, okay, are you sure? I'll show you the world. I'll take you on a trip to here or there. You know, I have an engagement ring for you. 2 different people
Wow.
actually proposed to her. She wasn't even dating them. Proposed to her. Yep. No. See, this is what happens. But we shut ourselves off to better opportunities, to better love, to better experiences, whatever, right? Because we're holding on to something that's toxic and terrible for us. And we've convinced ourselves it's the best thing to do. And it's like, nah, you need perspective. And when someone gives you, like this man literally threw you like the biggest flag in the world, right? And said, okay, here, now I'm going to start hitting you. Though that was enough, I'm going to sexually abuse you.
Oh, no.
Dude, no. That should be the biggest red flag in the world for you. You are 28, honey. Like, you are still young and hot and everything. And you know what? Maybe you put on some weight from stress and whatever. Girl, it'll take you like six months to a year max to take off all that weight. You're good. You're good. You know, in that year that you're taking off the weight so you could look 21 again, you're going to be going to therapy. You're going to be doing your groups, your support groups and stuff like that. So that way you're healing and you're actually ready to go back out there and put out the right kind of energy to get the right kind of energy back in a new man, right? You'll be working out. So you're going to be working on your health. You're going to be eating right, you know, and exercise. Girl, trust me, 28. You know many things I could do with my life if I could go back to being 28 years old? 28 years
Okay.
old, right? Damn.
I don't know, you guys. I'm just telling you the knowledge that I have now. I'm like, okay, let me take what I got now. And if I can go back to, you know, younger, you know, because everything is, you know, fresher and firmer, you know, but I just be like, damn, I don't know. That's a gamble right there. That is a gamble because, you know, with each year of my life, you know, the wisdom that I've gained, I don't want to go back to that ignorance. I do not want to go back to it.
True. That is a fair point.
I think about that and I'd be like, yeah, but the body was younger, it was tighter, and it was like, girl, you just snap back. And I'm like, well, you know what? But I was not I didn't have it all. You know, I had a little bit more knowledge, you know, now. And I'm like, I want to keep that. So let me keep the knowledge, you know. I'll go back, give me, you know, younger, tighter. I'll take it. I will take it.
That's fair. Okay. I retract my statement slightly, but I'm going to say this. You are the age I would go back to if only I didn't have to lose all of the growth and wisdom and all that crap that I already did. So, since you're there already, right, do the thing that we can't do instead of amassing and following wisdom and knowledge and self-growth and whatever. Now, while you're taking care of yourself and, you know, heed the wise words of, you know, other people, specifically us, who are telling you, get the hell away, stay the hell away. Don't worry about that. You don't need the old shoes anyway, so on and so forth, right? Because right now, you need time for you. You really do. And, you know, I think that you, in a way, want to run away from your time with you. Like, you don't want to sit at home. Like I said, it's very uncomfortable to sit with yourself by yourself when you're not healed. Because it forces you to think and it forces you to face yourself. But that's exactly what you need right now. And, you know, that's why I say I suggest you go get some professional help while you're doing this and you reach out to the groups, whatever, while you're doing this. But you don't really need friends right now. You don't need to make new connections. The last thing, like, let's say you were going to, you know what, you're going to actually stay at this exact same job or you start a new job, whatever, right? Do you want people to know you and the you that you are now, where you're feeling so insecure and you're feeling so broken, you've gone through so much, you've done no healing, no growth, no nothing? Like, do you want them to learn that you, or do you want them to learn the real you when all those layers of pain are gone or dealt with, right? They're put to bed. And so they get to actually know the real you. Because you don't have to convince people that you're a good person. You don't have to convince people that you're not this and you're not that, right? Who you are shines through, right? And so if it's not shining bright enough, you don't have maybe the confidence right now or whatever, that work on yourself, it'll just start shining through. You're not going to need to convince them of anything because they'll just want to be around that energy that you're going to be emoting. You know what I mean? So you just need to get to the place where you're back to emoting that energy that is you and not this broken energy that you've had from being in this toxic ass relationship for so long.
Right.
Yeah, because she has nothing to offer anyone right now. Just time for healing for herself, and I would say, as you mentioned before, 2 years. Oh, it's on because it takes time. You don't unprogram and have all the answers right away.
That's true. That's very true.
She may have some financial issues. She got to get those things straight. She may want to try something new in a career path. So it takes a little time, and that's okay. And she has a lot of it. So I say continue forward, get your healing. You're going to meet a lot of new people along the way. Better people, too.
Facts. Absolutely.
And she has to believe that, because if she thinks she's, she can't get no better than him, then that's a whole nother obstacle, a whole different, show, if she's on that. She has to believe that, this is what she can do and this is what she needs to do. It takes strength, because when you're in an abusive situation, you become dependent on that situation. And this sounds kind of sick, but you kind of become dependent on the abuse, because the abuse lets you know that, hey, you're noticed, you're there, depending on how deep your personal situation is, with yourself, there's a whole myriad of, reasons why a person, accepts an abusive relationship, because not everybody does. Not everybody does. And when you do accept it, it is at, different degrees, there are different degrees to it.
I'm going to say this too, I don't think, and I mean, I know people might be iffy with this a little bit, but I don't think you have to have the right mindset first. You just have to start doing the behavior first. The mindset will follow. Now, I'll tell you, the first time I had a big discussion about that, what has to come first? Does your mindset have to change as far as you think you have to do this, or does the behavior have to change first? A friend and I were discussing about fixing the Black community inherently. And so, we're talking about, starting Black community and whatnot and whatever. And so, her whole argument is, well, no, first people would have to have that mindset to change, right? And to think differently about our people and blah, blah, blah. And then they could do the right behavior. And I said, well, no, I don't think that they'd have to do that at all. I think that knowing that your children, the next generation, have to see a particular behavior and then gritting your teeth and doing it for the benefit of them, so that way they can be reared in that environment while you're still learning that environment feels better and is better for you, the mindset will follow. And it was a big debate we had. Now, how am I applying that to this? It's the same thing as, I'm going to say, any one of the self-help groups, like, for example, AA, right? In an AA meeting, they always ask people, anyone getting their 1 day chip, 1 week, so there's always a 1 day chip, there's a 1 week chip, there's a 30-day chip, right? So it's not like you have to first be a certain level of clean of so many days, so many weeks before the group's going to benefit you. You could be literally still drunk and show up at AA. And it could still have a benefit, because you being at that meeting is the reason why you didn't, technically kill yourself with, that one more drink tonight. And then because of that, blah, blah, blah. And tomorrow when you sobered up and something in that meeting resonated and now you're clean. So actually doing the behavior first is okay. If your mindset's not ready, it's okay. Your mindset can follow. So you can just call the helpline, even if you think it's not going to be helpful. You can just go to the group, even if you're not ready. You can go and do the right behavior first, just because we're telling you to do it. Just go do it anyway. Even if you're not there, just go do it anyway. Now, at this point, it's like a click online. You don't have to go nowhere. You sit on your couch and do it. So just do the behavior first. If your mindset hasn't caught up yet, because, hey, guess what? While you're doing that right behavior, little trinkets are going to be setting into your brain that are going to get you to the place where your mind is actually ready to commit. It might not be yet because you're not sure. You think your problem is loneliness and a lack of friends. Obviously, you can tell from everything we've said over like 2 hours that we don't think that's your biggest problem. So, your mindset can follow. But, for now, it's like, hey, do these right behaviors first. Just do the right behavior first and just keep engaging in it. If you haven't left yet, just leave. Leave number one. While you're sitting in the hotel room, you click on the abuse hotline, and then you sit there and you find a group because they'll tell you what the groups are, and you go into that group and you're not ready at all, and you go to a group every day. That's what you do. You make your behavior do it for you, and trust me, your mind will follow. You don't even have to be committed yet. Just do it.
I
Right?
agree with that, Ruby. I agree with that. And that's why, I was so adamant about, just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave. Because once you have that separation, the rest will follow. If you're still, in the same household with that person, your emotions and your feelings just don't turn off. And if you do have emotions and feelings, you don't think he knows that. That's part of the manipulation process. When you're with somebody who is an abuser, there is a level of manipulator in that person.
Mm-hmm.
They exercise all of that. They have skills. These people have skills, and they know how
Yep.
to tap into your weaknesses, like a soft shell. So, when I say, your behavior, and you say the behavior, I agree. The behavior is what needs to, bam, take place. And then the rest will follow.
Mm-hmm.
It really will.
Yeah, it will. And I mean, again, if she hasn't left already, if she did leave,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they work at the same place, on the same department. I'm gonna assume she does have enough money to self-sustain. And hopefully she has, if at least gotten to a hotel. At that point, your next bet is to invest in an apartment. And the reason why is because signing yourself to a lease might be scary right now. But the only
Yeah.
reason why people stay in hotels is because they're in flux. They're not sure where they're going next. And you need to make, like I said, behavior first. You get the apartment first, think about it later. If you don't, though, have financial freedom for whatever reason, there are battered women's homes. Not just like homeless shelters, but there are actually battered women's homes where they only take in sufferers of domestic abuse. Right? They're not listed in the phone book, right? There's no listed number, right? They're literally to keep women safe. And so, you getting connected into this network, by making that first call to the domestic abuse hotline, and I believe Char posted that inside of the chat. That's your first step to getting into this interconnected network of women helping women, in essence, to escape these situations. So, you do that, you can have shelter housing somewhere while you're building up enough to get yourself first and last security deposit, money for furniture, whatever it is. Don't feel like, well, I don't have all those things. So until I save this, until I save that, they have come up with stuff. So that way you no longer have to think about those things. You don't. You no longer have to sit there and say, well, I don't have $5,000 to move out on my own. You don't have to. Not right now. You can get out first and worry about that stuff later. And there are places that can help you. Just don't give yourself excuses. Don't give yourself outs and reasons why you should stay in a toxic environment or situation any longer, because you don't have to.
Yeah, and I know they always fund those type of things, and push come to shove, you can check with your employer. Sometimes they have help there,
Mm-hmm.
and Catholic Charity. So far in pretty much every state, they have something that
Mm-hmm.
that they can help you with.
Yep. And you don't have to be Catholic for the Catholic charity thing. They
Right.
help women. So
Well, the fact
hopefully
that
you don't have
there's
children.
help out there, the fact that there's help out there, and a person needs to know where they can turn to get some help, and that's very important. That these organizations exist, and that if you do turn to them, there's going to be help available. It's just so important that women as well as men, just value yourself. you know I was talking to my goddaughter the other day, and I was telling her, I understand you're in this relationship and you love this man, but just because you love someone doesn't mean that you have to suffer. Love doesn't mean suffer, or you
No.
have to go through some hardship to prove that love exists. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, don't buy into that. I The way I was raised on that romanticism.
Mhm.
That you find someone you love and who loves you, and you guys love each other until you die, and that's the way it works. And you know what, you come to find out it doesn't work out that way. And then
Mhm.
when you've loved this person and you've been with this person, years later you realize, okay, well, now what have we built? Not a damn thing, because all we did was love each other. So
Mm.
what I told her is, I said, I'm not saying that love does not matter. What I'm saying is that there are other factors involved in with regards to your happiness, because you can be in love with a crackhead, but you already know you are not going to progress with a crackhead. Let's
Right.
just keep it a bug. You're not going anywhere with a crackhead, but he can be the one that knows you the best. He knows
Mhm.
when something's bothering you. He knows, just the right thing to pep you up. But he's a crackhead, which means, what are you going to be able to build with him? I'm not going to tear him down because he's a crackhead, but you in turn have to make a decision. Do you want to spend your life working with this crackhead, and then 20 years later look and see that, okay, we haven't built shit because I've dealt with the crackhead. So we've had, 1,087 setbacks because I'm dealing
Mhm.
with the crackhead, which I've already known. You can't in turn get mad at that crackhead because you chose to give your time to that person. I told her, one thing you can't get back is your time, honey. So you
Mhm.
need to choose
Hmm.
carefully. I mean, he may be a great person and you be like, I love him and he loves me and he just really knows me. And when we talk, I really feel him and he really feel me. But, can you build with him?
Mhm.
Yeah. Take all that energy you have for that love and write a book about it. I really love this crackhead, and he knew me, and I knew him. Put all that energy, put that bad fellow on Amazon to be a number one seller. And then once you cash your checks, which will be like a pension, because you're gonna make a lot of money. Like, ooh, I sure did love that crackhead. Look at all the money.
Right.
That
That's what I'm
ooh, yes.
sorry, that's what I'm
I
saying.
love him. I love him so much. I'm gonna reread the book. Let me read it. Let me count the ways. I really love that crackhead back in 2021. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where's the progression?
Girl.
And that's what I said, and I always use a crackhead because it's like, you already know, it's like, 99.9%, it ain't going to go nowhere. But, there are those success stories. Not everybody has those. So it's like, what are you going to do? You got to look at your situation. You have to look at it and be real with yourself. And say, if I choose to stay and choose to work it out because I love him and he loved me, don't you dare get mad at him because he was still the same crackhead you was in love with 20 years ago. Cut it out. Cut it
I'm gonna
out.
look it up. Listen, I'm gonna bet either Jill Scott or Erica Badu, especially Erica Badu, wrote a song once about being in love with a crackhead. I am gonna get it, y'all. If I find it, I'm gonna play it on Wednesday.
That
Just
was
so you know.
Tyrone. Wasn't Tyrone a crackhead? That was Tyrone.
Yeah.
Erica did it. It was Tyrone. You better call Tyrone.
Oh,
Yeah.
she you go.
Yep, Tyrone had friends, cousins. Yeah, Tyrone was popular.
Your uncle, come and get you. Call him because I'm done with you. Come and get you.
Trying to pay everyone's way for him. That Tyrone. You know,
I gotta pay for your cousin, your brother, no.
Sometimes it cousin's way. Yeah, I know. That's just running through my head. Y'all have it stuck in my head. But I wanted to say this. Now, I brought up a lecture. I watched this lecture. It's like a few hours long. And as soon as I said the title of it, and I was in the manosphere at the time, and I said it, and I guess because it had the word toxic in the title, then they just kept associating it with toxic masculinity, even though it had nothing to do with toxic masculinity, and because the word toxic. So we're gonna try not to do that
it's
today.
A buzzword.
I know I'm terrible at those, right? But okay, so we're gonna do it anyway because I'm me. So I watched this lecture, and it was on toxic romanticism. That's literally the title of what we're talking about. This idea that we've been born and shaped in of what love is supposed to be. This overly romantical idea of what functional relationships are supposed to be, about what marriage is supposed to be, about what loving your spouse is supposed to be. And so anything that falls short of this ideal from, the fairy tales and the TV shows and whatever have taught us, it's not good enough. We're looking for that. And then we chase that feeling until we have it, until we think we have it. And normally to have that level of like extreme, you're going to lose your mind kind of love, and you're going to sacrifice everything and all of that foolishness, right? It's normally a very toxic situation, right? So you have extreme highs, but you also have extreme lows. And nothing is about building except for fighting the world for your love, right? Fighting off this girl for your love, right? Everything's about your love. And so it's like, instead of this idea, unfortunately, because people used to value the idea of growing old, and you're 80 years old and y'all are both in your rocking chairs on the front porch. You're just drinking your tea silently, and he's gonna be reading out the crossword question, and you going tisk tisk tisk, and he's gonna sit there and bicker at you. You're gonna bicker at him, and then go tell him the answer. He's gonna say, "I knew that anyway," and put it in, and it's gonna make you smile internally, and that was love, right? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone that you were gonna build that with, right? I want to be them. This is like, and now that's not romantic to us, right? Because if he's not bringing us to Bali and first class with champagne, he's literally foolishness, then he ain't romantic. He don't love us, right? Even though he knows exactly the way we take our coffee and exactly the way we like our laundry done, and he randomly will do it, even though we're like, what the hell? You were just over for the night, baby, and you folded my shirts exactly the way, because he pays attention to you, right? That used to be romantic as hell. That was not romantic. That's just boring, right? And so, like, we're not actually valuing, these little, like, we value too much tangible stuff, but we're not valuing the right tangible stuff. We're not valuing the actual stuff, like you said, that's going to help us build a life together and keep a life and a household going and a family going together in a functional way that's going to leave us more time for self, more time for the relationship, more time for spending time with our kids, and more happiness, right? Because we're basing our happiness on stupid things. Like, really? Do you honestly think that the trip to Bali and to Hawaii and the Balenciaga bag and the this and the that and all that stupidness, do you honestly think in your heart and soul, honestly, that if you just had those things, well, then that means he's madly in love with you? Like, so he just buys you a bag and then walks away, right? And you don't see him, you don't call, you don't think about you, but it's okay because every time he does, he just buys you more stuff. That means he loves you more. Like, no, of course not, right? But we're not thinking it through to the end, unfortunately, because we have this society, this consumer society, that tells us we need to be consuming, and experiencing, and doing, and consuming, and consuming, and without all the consuming, without all the money, then it's not good enough. And so we're not valuing the right things. We're just not. unfortunately. And, when you're young, it's so easy to get caught up in that hype because you're still really following the stars and social media and da-da-da. And, so it's easy to get caught up in that. But I think, we need to take a couple steps back and recognize we still want a marriage. We want a happy life. We want a happy family. We want a 50-year marriage. But like, how often do we go find someone who's been married for 50 years and ask them, what the hell do you guys do? Like, what did you do when you were my age? Right? What was your relationship really like? Not what your kids think it was, right? What was it actually like, right? Like, your kids think that you guys were madly in love, right? For 50 years. Your kids are delusional. So what was it really, really like? Right? Like, that's what we need more of. People need to start talking about the reality of things, telling their kids the reality. Yeah, I love you. I love your daddy to death now. But some days, I lay next to this man and he was snoring. And I literally thought about sawing his nose off. Just sawing it off. That's it. That's what I did. Now that's love. You know how you know it's love? Because she didn't saw off the nose and she still stayed and she still got up at 4 a.m. and made him his damn breakfast because she loved him. See, that's love, right? That duty and that wanting to take care of. And even though he kept you up all night, when you got home from work, even though he came home, he rubbed your feet. Because my poor baby, she was up cooking and now she's working. Let me rub my baby's feet. See, that's love. It's just little offhand things y'all do for each other. And if you're not getting that from each other, what's the point anyway? And I know for sure an abusive guy's not giving you all this. So no, just no. You deserve better. And as soon as you go through all of that counseling, growth, development, whatever, you'll put out the right kind of energy to bring in the right kind of guy who's going to give you the right kind of love and that you're going to be loved in the right kind of way.
And you know what, Ruby, I completely agree with that. I don't say, because a woman, has, made a wrong choice. And, it's always put on the woman because they say, you chose wrong. And it's like, okay, well, she gets a one-off. So shut up. She gets a one-off. And, she gets to choose again, since you guys say you're waiting around, waiting to be chosen, because she's the one who chose wrong, so, you get another chance and, you learn from that first experience, you learn from it and you don't let it destroy you,
Right.
But what I say is that at the bottom line is that because there is abuse involved, may it be physical, verbal, and sexual, you need to get out immediately. And then, like we talked about earlier, the mind, it will follow. The rest will follow. Make that action and then the mind will follow. You have to sometimes shock yourself.
Right? I'm sorry. I just gotta point out, Queen of the Cells cracks me up. She like Negan, the way sometimes she says some stuff I just don't expect to. I just have to laugh at her saying, "I'm a toxic romantic. I'm going to poison a man slowly one day. I can feel it." Like, what is this shit?
Uh-oh.
I'm just kind of like, okay, girl, seek help. Okay. We should not be sitting there looking now and saying, you know what, in 20 years, when I find the right man, I'll settle down, we marry, he's going to do something to me, and I'm going to start poisoning him with rat poison, and eventually he'll die. That should not be part of our life plans. If it is,
well, hopefully he's giving you some indications, Queen of the South, that, he wasn't correct. But, Bomb did say, she said, what is choosing wrong? And you know what, Bomb, I'm going to say, there is such a thing as choosing wrong. A lot of times, a woman's intuition will tell her, when she's going for a bad boy. But then there are times where a woman chooses a man, based on her environment. And she chooses the best of the worst men that, that there are to choose from. And I'm not putting down my black men, but, you have a category of men and she's going to try to choose the best of the worst in this particular environment, and when you put him against another environment, he may score very low, but she chose the best because this is where she was. So a lot of times when you don't make the right decision or you end up with an outcome that's unfavorable, that's when you get told, Bomb, that you chose wrong. Well, you chose wrong.
Well, I think sometimes you do choose wrong, though. Actually, in fact, I'm going to say the majority of young society right now is choosing wrong. And I'm going to explain why I said that, because I'm not trying to be all ageist, but it's true. I think the problem is people are choosing based on tangible BS that is easy come, easy go, or temporary. It has nothing to do with internal characteristics as far as who is this person, what are they about. Do their values and character and beliefs and the way that they treat you, the way that they deal with stress, how they act under pressure, how they feel about all of these things, right? Like your values overall. Do they align with you, and do they complement? And by complement, I mean as in go with you and all of yours, right? And instead, people are saying, well, what's your bank account like? Right? And we're talking about men. Well, what's your bank account like? And what are you willing to give me? We're talking about women. Well, how hot are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And what's your body look like? Like, those are not good things to choose a lifelong mate on, right? It's almost like we never had the discussion about all these intangible, right, or intrinsic internal qualities about a person, because those are more important. You can always earn more money. In fact, when people are married, they tend to be 40% more successful in all areas, including finances, over the course of their life. So you can always earn more money. You can always buy more things. You can always lose weight. You can always do lots of things, right? Like, you can change these, tangible things. But normally, someone's character, like their values, those deep ingrained values, those are pretty well set by the time they're 30, probably by the time they're adults. So, I think that we need to be choosing more based on those internal intrinsic characteristics. And if we're only choosing on tangible surface bullshit, we're choosing wrong. Hopefully you luck it.
Well, we are out of time, good people. And I'm glad that you have chosen to spend your time here. But there is always next week. You know how we do it.
Right.
And I want to thank you for those that contributed to the channel. Thank you for your likes, shares, and all of that, your watch time. And what I would like to do is play our commercial on the way out. Don't forget article reactions tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I hope to see you then. And until then, peace.
Cheers, y'all.
Peace out, family.
Hey, folks, it's your nighttime, it's your right time DJ Music. Make sure you join Char Willie each and every Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, for article reaction, right here on your local YouTube channel. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to Article Reaction.